What is the role of religion in our ever-changing world? From the News Channel 5 network, this is Issues of Faith.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Our topic today, tiny homes for the homeless and the building of a trans-religious community, a trans-religious place of worship right here in Nashville. Happy to have with us the founder of Infinity Fellowship, Jeff Obafemi Carr. Thank you for being with us.
Great to have you, baby. Great to be here with you.
Two issues I just said. You made news with tiny homes for the homeless, and I want to talk about that. But it's kind of an offshoot of this new religious community you're trying to build, what you call a trans-religious place of worship. What do you mean by that?
By trans-religious, we mean something that goes above and beyond just religious secular communities. So Infinity Fellowship is an interfaith gathering. Sometimes people come in and they say, oh my gosh, I'm going to a new kind of church, and everybody goes, no, 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 it's not a church, it's a fellowship. It's a fellowship. This is where we get together. And it's very much a fellowship for three reasons. Number one, we call them the three I's. That's interfaith, which means that we bring together people of all different religious backgrounds. There are people there who are literally Christians. They self-identify as Christians. There are those who self-identify as Muslims, those who self-identify as Jews, those who self-identify as Buddhists, some who don't identify as anything. Some say, I don't know, and some say I'm unaffiliated. So it gives them a space where they can come and gather around commonality. The second thing about Infinity that's great is the second I, which is that it's inclusive. And that is that we don't have a discriminatory space where we say, well, hey, you're right, we're right, everybody else is wrong. You can come there and dress any kind of way, come as you are. You also can not worry about your family background, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation. It's a place where everybody is included there. And then it's innovative. And by that I say we do different things at different times. So first and second Sunday, we have what we call our traditional service, which isn't traditional at all. We have a DJ. We do a welcome moment with hip-hop. We sing Earth, Wind, and Fire songs. On third Sundays, we do what's called Faith Speaks, where we have a conversation with the congregation, so you actually get to have a Q&A. And on fourth Sundays, we do Yoga Sunday, where the whole service is meditative yoga, where we sit and we contemplate issues of life, and we pull it all together for a reset of mind, body, and spirit. So it's totally unlike anything you have in place in Nashville now. And it's something that was a bold experience a little over a year ago, an experiment.
When you say yoga, that is different than anything. In what I read, you say you want to transcend divisive religious dogma. Is that what you have seen? Is there a craving to kind of get beyond my religion is right and that religion is wrong? And so what the people that are coming in, what are you hearing from them?
What I'm hearing is the same thing I heard from myself, and that is that for years I didn't have a place to go because I always felt like a misfit. I had friends who were from different faiths. I had friends who just believed in science. They were saying, I'm not going to call it anything. I just know that we came from the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago. I'm like, well, okay, well, that's still a source, right? So what if we don't give it a name? And I say, yeah. So I would go into a church environment. I was raised Baptist, ordained in the Baptist church in the ministry, and I would have these conversations, and there was always a cutoff point. And I was told, well, you know, just have faith. Don't question these things. We're right. We're the chosen people, so we have to go out and we have to save everybody. And if it wasn't for us, everybody wouldn't be saved and they'd be infidels. And I said, that never really resonated with me. So I stopped going to church because I felt I had to choose. And I had to choose in the circle of friends that I was around that I would have these profound conversations with. So I started hanging out at coffee shops on Sundays, or sometimes I'd go to a football game or go to the park, and I would encounter people who were in the same boat as me. So when people come to Infinity, often they say the same thing. They say, wow, I finally found a place where we can have these conversations about what unites us as opposed to what divides us. I like what Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith says about religion. And he says, if you look at religion like it's a wheel, then you have spokes in this wheel, right? And you got each spoke represents a faith tradition. So you got a spoke for Christianity, a spoke for Islam, spoke for Buddhism. Everybody's got a spoke. The further away that you go from the center of the wheel, the farther apart the spokes actually are. So you get this concept that we are totally different. We don't believe the same things. But when you come down to the core, there's a circle there that unites everything. Infinity focuses on the circle that unites. So if you have what we call SNAP, we call it SNAP. SNAP is spirituality, nurturing, action, and proof. Spirituality is your concept of God, of source, of creator, whatever you want to name that. That resonates directly with you. And that's not for me to say that's right or that's wrong, especially if you spent time in meditation. You take your spirituality and you nurture that in a space where you feel comfortable talking about it and sharing your journey. You turn that into action, which means you just don't sit there, expect a divine revelation, and then say, oh, okay, that was good, I'm enlightened now. What you do is you put it into action, and in our case, we do social justice outreaches, like the micro homes, where we actually do things, and then you provide proof in your life that you are improving. So it's very much about making that journey together and doing great things in the community.
And we're going to show some pictures of the tiny homes and talk about that in a moment. But what have you, well, and there it is. I mean, here you are in front of the tiny, and let's just go ahead and talk about that now. What was that project? How did that project come about? And we see a picture of you standing in front of a very small home.
Yes, that's a very
It's not very
small
big.
home. No, this desk wouldn't fit in the home.
Right, we're talking, what, 60 square feet?
Yeah.
60 square feet. So what's the vision, the goal? What was the project there?
When I was in Haiti after the earthquake with a buddy of mine, Dwayne Jones, who has a construction company in Memphis, he and I would go down. We built a water filtration system on a roof at an orphanage there. We built a tent city for them. They had a horrible experience with the earthquake. 12 of the kids got trapped, destroyed the facility. But we were there and we were saying, how can we help at home? Because we go out on these trips. We were on the tarmac at the airport, and there were these gigantic stacks of grain and all of these bags from all of these world ministries. And getting off the airplane and talking with our guide, I said, well, look at all this food around, man. I mean, this is great. He said, most of us will never see it. And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, between some of the corruption, people getting paid off to distribute it, it may never make it to our village. But more importantly, you have to be attached to a church organization to get it. I said, what do you mean? And he took us into the villages, and literally it's, we will give you food, we will give you drink if you study this Bible, if you go to class, and if you absorb the doctrine. And something just didn't sit right with me. I said, that's not, we study even Jesus and you study his ministry. He's a great role model for me. I said, he did not give with a bait and switch. He didn't say, you convert and then I'm gonna help you. And so I saw that model and I said, we wanna do something to show that it can operate in a different way. So when we got back, Dwayne's a construction guy. He said, I had this vision for building these tiny houses. And I said, you know what? There used to be a tent city in Nashville that got washed away when the flood came. It's been redistributed to 3 or 4 different places. Let's see if we can find them. We found a space where a group of the campers were camping at a church in South Nashville. I approached them. I said, I want to build some micro homes here. And they were like, what's a micro home? I said, well, it's a solidly constructed home with hurricane clips and insulation and electricity. It's just really small, but it's a lot better than sleeping in a tent. And so they said, well, sure, let's do it. So we wanted to raise funds. At the time, Infinity was only about 35 people. We started with 5 people. You're fast forwarding it to February of this year, we're at 35 people at that time. So we said, we got to find an innovative way to do it. So why not crowdfund it? So we put it up on GoFundMe. Right. And in order to do it and to get attention, I moved into the home. I wanted to demonstrate.
You moved into the home and said, I'm not coming out.
I'm not coming out until we raise $50,000, which would allow us to build between, at the time, 5 and 6 homes was our vision. We ended up building 6. But I moved out from home, my wife and 5 kids. She was very gracious. She's a soldier, Kanitha. I love her. She took care of the kids, she's in grad school. She did all of that for us while I was there. And I lived in that 60 square feet for 45 days until we raised $50,000 plus. We had overages, but we ended up raising over $60,000 for that project, and we built it within 10 days of raising the money. So within 7 weeks, we were able to address a very important issue, which is affordable housing, and we wanted to demonstrate through Infinity that you can pull together people of all different backgrounds and just focus on not the words, not the terms, not what you're calling that source, but if that source is moving something inside you, then you have to do something with that source. And that's where the proof comes in. So we got contributions from people all over the world. People from Mexico said, I'm giving you $5. I'm homeless now, but I hope to live in the USA one day. Philanthropists who gave us $5,000 and said, I'm glad somebody's not dealing with red tape. And when you remove the religious doctrine, then a lot of times you don't have people fighting over things.
There can be no argument
There's
that
no
this
argument.
is a good thing. There are people living in tents.
Yes.
They aren't even living in those anymore after the flood. They need a place to stay. And when you talk to the people that now have a tiny home, it's more than just shelter.
Right.
It gives them self-respect.
Yes.
It's all kinds of things. But you get past some of the religious baggage.
Of course you do.
And you get right at the project.
Yes.
And is that kind of the essence of what
That's
you were doing?
That's the essence of what we're doing, because when I was living in the home, I got to interact with all kind of wonderful people. A few years ago, I was caught up in the mortgage crisis, and the mortgage bubble hit, and some of the adjustable rate mortgages, and technically for about 3 months, I was homeless. I had a mother-in-law who allowed me to stay in the 2 rooms in her upstairs. It was a converted attic with my wife and kids and pregnant wife at the time. And I knew that feeling after 17 years of home ownership and 24 years, 25 years of being on my own and never having to worry about anything like that. To find myself a working professional in a space where I wasn't sure about the next day, it's a horrible feeling. And being in that micro home and dealing with people who were coming by every day saying, could you build me one? I just need a place to put my stuff. We're sleeping in a shelter. We're sleeping under a porch. I've got a family. It's tough for me to find places there. I had people come and they say, I want to go to an organization that helps, but they're making me go to all of these classes, and they're making me, and they're not job training classes, they're religious classes. And they said, I feel uncomfortable with that because I feel I'm in touch already with God. I just need shelter. So being in that space and understanding that basically, as the Vanderbilt study that came out this summer affirmed, the #1 way you help people is by providing direct action with homes. And that was able to do that. And I'm very, very delighted that that's a part of.
All right, we're going to take a break. You said in February there were 35 members of your congregation. I want to see where you are now and talk more about Infinity Fellowship. Take a break. Be back right after this.